members of the board, for the record, my name is Michael Floyd. I'm an attorney with Archer and Griner, appearing on behalf of the applicant, which has submitted a request for a second one-year extension of a minor subdivision approval previously granted by this board. The applicant is requesting this extension due to delays beyond the applicant's control in finalizing its NJDOT permit and the construction, all in connection with a full movement jug handle at Lawrence Boulevard and Route 38.
And Mr. Flood, you have a revised letter dated July 10, 2025, which supplements your previous May 29, 2025 letter to correct what I take it you could call fairly as a typo.
It was a typo referencing November 2025. It should have referenced November 2024.
Right, let's we'll mark that, please. The cover letter of July 10, along with the May 29th letter together as Exhibit A for tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I'm passing out now incorrectly marked as Exhibit A. This will be Exhibit B. Is the first minor subdivision plan that was granted by this board to create lot 1.05. That lot is where two new industrial buildings have been constructed.
It would help, Mr. Floyd, if you just give us a physical description of the jug handle we're talking about. I think most board members know, but maybe the public doesn't.
Yes, and actually I do have one witness this evening, Joe Fierro. Joe is a vice president with Aries Management that controls the urban renewal entity that is the applicant in this matter, and Joe can provide some testimony about the ongoing construction activities at the jug handle and communications with DOT. If we could have him sworn in at this time.
More that we're going to share.
And I'm also passing out now a copy of the most recent subdivision approval. This is the Exhibit C, and this is the subdivision approval that we are requesting an extension of this evening.
Actually, I think that was also attached, at least to my copy it was,
Yes, we did.
to your May 29th letter.
That is correct.
Okay.
And I know it's difficult sometimes to see the details on the board. That's why I passed out reduced size copies.
So has the witness been, we haven't sworn the witness.
Not yet. Joe?
Good evening, everyone. Joe Fierro with Aries.
You swear or affirm the testimony you give will be the truth, nothing.
Yes.
And just in summary, it is laid out in their application, but this subdivision that we're requesting an extension of, to perfect, involves the creation of two new lots. One of those lots is going to be conveyed by the applicant to NJDOT, and the second lot is going to be conveyed from NJDOT to the applicant. The entire point of this land swap in connection with this minor subdivision approval is to effectuate a brand new full movement jug handle at the traffic signal on Route 38 across from Lawrence Boulevard. But there are some ongoing work that needs to be completed with DOT. Aries is moving forward as expeditiously as possible to get everything completed. And Joe, maybe if you just speak to what those outstanding construction items are, and then when you expect to get to closing.
Sure. So we just energized the traffic signal today. So we'll have some, minor signalization, timing, sequencing to work through with DOT. We have to mill and overlay what's left in the shoulder on Route 38 and finish up some curbing. It's very minimal work, and then once that's all done, we'll get a punch list from DOT, and they'll likely need 2 to 3 months to review final as-builts. So expecting final closeout from DOT sometime before the end of the year in late fall.
Is the jug handle now operative?
No, it's not, it has not been open.
Okay. Do you expect, do you have a date when it may open?
Sometime in the next 60 days, we expect that to be open.
After you finish all these punch
Correct.
list items?
Correct.
Okay.
And Joe, just for the sake of clarity, once the jug handle is open, we'll then be in a position shortly thereafter, hopefully to actually close
Correct.
on the land swap.
Correct.
There will be delay there. The agreement of sale has been approved by the State House Commission, but we will have to go through that closing process with the state. That will take some additional time.
Yeah, DOT will not perfect or accept the improvements until they're complete, and then at that point, we can perfect the land swap and record the subdivision.
I must say that jug handle is an improvement, great improvement over what was there before.
Thank you.
Any other testimony?
So that's it, Mr. Chairman. Just for everyone's intent for your recollection, the applicant has been moving forward with all due diligence. And these delays are just typical with NJDOT. It is a large project. Otherwise, we would have been in a position to perfect the subdivision. So through no fault of its own, we're asking for this second one-year extension.
Right, thank you. Mr. Kingsbury, would you advise having public comment on this or not necessary?
Two things. Whatever extension you grant would be retroactive to April 3 of this year. And you can grant an extension to compensate for their delay time. It can be 1 year, but it doesn't have to be 1 year. Whatever time you think is appropriate to allow them to obtain outside approvals, that's the amount of time you're allowed to grant an extension.
You're seeking, Mr. Floyd, 1 year.
We've asked for a one-year extension until April of next year, April 2026. But as Joe just testified to, we're anticipating having the jug handle open and accepted by DOT in the next 60 days. Let's say there's a hiccup there in 90 days, and thereafter it may take 2 to 3 months to have the ultimate land swap perfected and go to closing. So that's why we're asking for the one-year extension. Again, Mr. Kingsbury point, retroactive to April of this year.
All right. All right, I'm going to open it up to the public for any public comment. If anyone in the audience wishes to ask a question or make a comment on this application, please raise their hand.
Mr. Chairman, we have you.
If there's someone behind the sign, I can't see them, so maybe stand up. And,
My name is Charles Lawrence. I received
all right,
this-
Mr. Lawrence,
Go
why
to that.
don't you come up to the microphone?
Sir, I have to swear you in. You swear or affirm the testimony you give will be the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes.
All right, Mr. Lawrence, what do you have to say about it?
My name is Charles Lawrence. I received this notification today, and that's why I'm attending the meeting. It was sent to Christian Faith Assembly Church, which is right down the road. So I guess I'm trying to understand what this project has to do and how will it or will it not affect church property.
Well, Mr. Floyd, why don't you attempt to respond to that question?
Yes, sir. Mr. Lawrence, if you want to come around. This is the subdivision plan that was previously approved by the Joint Navies Board. What we're talking about is the existing jug handle here. This is our Route 38, Lawrence Boulevard. This is the bypass.
Keep your voice up, Mr. Floyd.
I'm sorry, I'm just pointing out to Mr. Lawrence where the jug handle is, where the full movement jug handle will be proposed. This traffic light was energized today, so you can see where this traffic light is in relationship to the bypass. Where's your church located, Joe?
I think they're on the other side of the railroad tracks. Back here.
So we're on,
This is the Conrail
we're
line.
on the Marin line.
Correct. Yes, and you're to the flat north here.
All right, gentlemen, we can't, the record can't pick up here and there, here's and theirs. So let me jump in. Mr. Lawrence, I'll ask Mr. Floyd to, or the witness best, how long has this project been under construction?
We broke ground in the spring of last year.
So this is not a new development.
Correct.
And how long has the jug handle that we're talking about been under construction?
We started the off-site work in the fall of 2024.
Has the warehouse work been essentially completed?
For the most part, yes. We're working through punch list and closeout and TCO and CO process, but the buildings are up, and we're just, really on one building, we're just waiting for it to be energized.
All right, and you told us previously in your testimony that the jug handle has been essentially completed except for a handful of punch list items. Is that correct?
That's right.
So, Mr. Lawrence, this has been there for 2 years. It's about finished, and they're just trying to iron out some final details, as Mr. Floyd has explained, so that the jug handle can be opened and the warehouses can be open for business.
That I understand. I'm just trying to wrap my hands around why my church received the notification.
Because Mr. Floyd, you can explain.
As a matter of law, by statute, the applicant has to provide notice to all property owners within 200 feet.
200 feet.
Correct, and because this property is so large, that is why the church got notice. We received the address for the church from the township, it's a certified list. So by statute, we have to mail notice to everyone on that list. But again, the important thing here is this property is very large, and this subdivision that we're talking about is on Route 38, the traffic signal. So there won't be any impact to your property by this subdivision.
That's the right answer.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Lawrence, did we answer your questions?
Yes, you did.
Thank you. Anyone else, public, have a comment? Seeing no hands in the public here in the room, I'll turn to the online.
No,
Anyone?
online.
You have a question online?
There's no
Unmute.
one online.
There's no one online. All right. We'll close public comment. All right. Board, want to take up this application for an extension that is requested retroactive to April for 1 year. I'd like a motion, please.
I'll make that motion to grant the extension.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second? All right, roll call.
Ms. Costco?
Yes.
Mrs. Torti?
Yes.
Mr. R. Murphy?
Yes.
Mrs. Ludden?
Yes.
Mr. Novarita?
Yes.
Mr. C. Murphy?
Yes.
Mr. McKay?
Yes.
And Mr. McKay?
Yes.
Thank you very much for your time this evening.
Floyd, thank you very much.
Thank you.
The next matter we'll take up will be case 2507, the Singh case involving, I guess you call it a sunroom, at 126 Paisley Place. Good evening, Mr. Singh.
Good evening, sir.
And who do you have with you?
I have Mr. Dom. He is the project manager for Tri-State sunrooms.
All right. Could he please use the mic and state your full name? We'll swear you in a minute.
Okay.
But your full name, please.
My name is Dominic Ronco, and I'm the project manager for Tri-State Building Specialties, the proposed sunroom contractor.
Okay. Please be sworn in.
Gentlemen, you swear or affirm the testimony you give tonight? You also, both of you. You swear or affirm the testimony you give tonight will be the truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth.
I do.
I do.
Okay. Dominic, what's your last name?
It's spelled W-R-O-N-K-O.
W-R-O-N-K-O.
N-K-O. Yes, sir. Ronco with silent W.
Ronco. All right, Mr. Singh, just explain to us in a few words what you're looking to do.
Yes, sir. We, as you can see, are fairly elderly. My wife and I downsized. We moved from Virginia to New Jersey back. And the reason for the move basically is number one, to downsize from a bigger place to a relatively smaller accommodation. And secondly, we wanted to be close to our daughter, our son-in-law, and our family, and our grandkids. The place we have moved to is two-bedroom place, smaller place than what my wife and I are used to, especially to enjoy our grandkids a little better. We thought we could use a little bit more room. The only thing we could do is add a sunroom so we could enjoy the company of our grandkids especially.
All right. And so this is a sunroom to be built on the back side of your house?
Back of the house, yeah.
All right. And is this sunroom to be built on an existing concrete patio or slab?
There's a concrete slab going to be.
All right. And is Mr. Ronco, who's standing next to you, is he the general manager or contractor for the project?
Yes, sir.
All right. Mr. Ronco, why don't you take the microphone and explain to us what you're contracted to do?
Okay, we're under contract to build a three-season, non-habitable sunroom to the rear in an area where there is an existing concrete pad. Project's going to be a little bit larger than that. We're also under contract to match the siding and match the shingles, so it's more aesthetically pleasing to the community.
All right. When you say the sunroom will be a little more than the existing patio, do you have dimensional information you can put on the record?
I think I provided a copy of a survey that reflects, oh, you want to know the size of what we're doing?
Yes.
Yes. Oh, I'm sorry. Glasses on here. The proposed structure is to be 12 feet by 16 feet.
Okay. And roughly how high at roof peak?
It'll be 10 feet at peak.
You want to mark that marked up survey as Exhibit A for tonight?
I think the board,
It's already part of the application.
It's in his application. All right, fine. And when you say 3 seasons, is that spring, summer, fall, or is it?
That's correct.
Brand name?
no, the terminology usually is accepted in this industry is that basically 3 season means it's not going to be habitable. We're not going to introduce any heating or cooling.
Okay. All right. We have a bulk variance here, application. So we have issues with regard to the rear setback.
Kathy has handled this one as it's an individual homeowner.
All right, Kathy, just go over for the board what the encroachment is into the area that's supposed to be set back.
So this is one of the smaller lots. The senior citizen zone has several different requirements for different size lots there. This is one of the smaller lots that exist. The 12 by 16 three-season room, as stated, it's not going to be heated or anything. The only request, there's no impervious coverage, there's no side yard setback. It is a rear setback which is required of 20 feet in this zone. They are asking for 8.10 setback. Again, there's no impervious coverage issues on this lot. He's well below that, what's required there. So again, it is a pretty simplistic request. One of the things that I did speak with the project manager was to ask him to explain about the water runoff, where that was going to be taken to on the lot. As this particular area in the Glen, homes are closer together. So that was one of my questions that I had asked him to bring the information about water runoff there, how that's going to be with the drainage.
And has that been explained?
I'm going to let Dominic explain that.
All right.
So there are there is a gutter on either side of the structure with downspouts that run to grade, which will force that water towards the rear of the property. I did provide photos to show what that looks like beyond the homeowner's property, and there is a row of grown bushes to the immediate area. I also confirmed with Mr. Singh, and you can ask him as well, if he has experienced any sitting water or sponginess to the grounds that are in that area, and he has explained that there has not been. I think that answers that.
This is one of the drier areas in the Glen. The perimeter areas of the Glen are very, very squishy, so to say. It doesn't affect, in the sense, there's no side yard setbacks. It's lining up with the existing home. The only setback, again, is toward the rear. And then, I mean, we can certainly make any kind of condition, if the board were to look favorably on this, is to make sure that where the runoff is going to on the final inspection from myself as well as my construction official, I'm not quite sure, I didn't see any pictures in regards to the drainage or anything. But we did this recently on one of the properties where we did an addition. We made sure that the runoff was going where it needed to, so that it didn't affect any of the neighbors.
Okay. I know that our Environmental Commission had a comment or two about this application. Can I ask?
Sure. You answered the one question. I couldn't tell from the things provided whether there was downspouts or not. And then our only recommendation was that maybe some plantings or something be done near where the runoff comes that will help to infiltrate the water down into the ground so that there won't, like native grasses or something like that sometimes, in a small area.
So I'll address that in two ways.
Sure.
Just reiterating that there are already bushes that are in that area.
Okay, they belong to Mr. Singh?
I think they're in the general common area.
No, they're not in the common area. They actually are in the rear of his back neighbor's property. They run along that back line, and then there's a
Okay.
few on each other side, but I don't believe there's any on Mr. Singh's property.
There is not.
Correct.
In which case, I mean, that's relying on the neighbor to take up his extra
The
ground.
one other thing that we can propose is at the end of each one of the downspouts, and if it pleases the board, and if the association allows us to, we can introduce dry wells to address that non-point runoff.
You could address,
Dry wells in the ground.
Right, we did that over at 74 Easton. We did the dry wells there. But again, they have an association, so some of this stuff does depend upon whether the association would approve certain plantings, dry well, things such as that. So obviously,
yeah, I would prefer plantings over any dry well. And I know that the Glen has put in, a rain garden already there, so, but it's just a suggestion, it's not a mandatory thing, but anything that you can do to help.
If it would please the board, we can certainly introduce,
are there suggestions there, Janice, of what may work for them if they choose to plant? Is there
I
any?
can certainly provide those.
So that may be the case if.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's not our
Yeah.
forte.
It's
Our-
landscaping usually, so. but That was it, just with the,
Okay.
not knowing how much water was going to be there. And
One of the things, Janice, that if they do decide to approve it and you want to send that to me, I have Dominic's, we go back and forth with emails, I'd be more than welcome to send it to
Sure.
him.
So, Mr. Singh, I address this to you. Are you agreeable to having the inspection, the final inspection, or on final inspection, to make a good faith effort to try to comply with any suggestions that Kathy makes with regard to handling the water from the downspouts?
Yes,
Mr. Singh, what would happen is that if they choose to approve this and you agree and Dominic's company does what is required of them with the downspouts and the blocks and everything, would you be in agreement with what they would suggest? And at the end, prior to a CO on this, I would come out and make sure that would be in compliant.
no, I will agree with if they suggest something that's remedy the situation, definitely, yeah.
All right, I think I heard a yes to that.
Yes, please.
Yes. Thank you. I'm going to open this to public comment, and then I'll do that, and then I'll have the board make any comments. Public comment, anyone here wishing to say something? No one's raising their hand, so we'll close that. Anyone online at this point?
No one's online.
All right. Members of the board, any questions on this application?
I'd just like to make a comment, please. I'd just like to say welcome to Hainesport. We're happy to have you here.
So I can,
Oh, she's welcoming you to the
Haines.
community.
thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
I started in New Jersey 65 years ago. My first job was here in Somerville, New Jersey. So we're coming back home, basically.
Well, we're happy to have you here.
Thank you very much, appreciate that.
Anyone else? All right, close comment area. Bob, we have a motion, and perhaps you can frame that for us for a bulk variance with regard to the rear setback on this proposed sunroom addition.
Motion would be to grant a rear yard setback variance to allow 8.1 feet of setback and subject to compliance with the zoning officer's recommendations regarding drainage mitigation.
Okay, may I have a motion?
So moved.
So moved. We have a second?
Second.
Roll call?
Mr. McKay?
Yes.
Mr. Navarita?
Yes.
Mrs. Torti?
Yes.
Mr. R. Murphy?
Yes.
Mrs. Ludden?
Yes.
Mr. C. Murphy?
Yes.
Ms. Casco?
Yes.
And Mr. McKay?
Yes. All right, Mr. Singh, your relief has been granted. And,
Thank you, members of the board, and have a great evening.
all right, thank you,
Just-
Mr. Rom.
Mr. McKay, I just want to make a statement, is that what will happen is that you're more than welcome to submit the application to my construction office, yet we have to wait for the following meeting for the resolution to be memorialized before we can release that permit to you folks. So we'd be looking at the following month. Okay?
Understood.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. All right, the next and last case on the list tonight is 25-01A, Palante LLC. This is the proposed development at Route 38 in Laurel Ridge for preliminary and final major subdivision. Good evening, Mr. Singer.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. For the record, Jonas Singer from Wells & Singer, appearing on behalf of the applicant, F. Palante LLC. As the board may remember, we were before you a few months ago, and we obtained a use variance to allow for the subdivision of 3 or 4 lots to create 3 building lots and 1 lot dedicated to be owned by an association for the retention basin and the private road that's being proposed. We've submitted plans, subdivision plans. We've received comments from both your planner and your engineer. I have this evening Mr. Romero, who is the project engineer, to respond to those comments. Our request this evening is to ask for preliminary and final, as we believe that most of the comments can be handled administratively. They're mostly plan adjustments, and Mr. Romero will testify to those facts. I can have him qualified again if you wish, but he was qualified previously during the use variance.
No, I recall that, and there's no need to requalify. Before you start, though, there's a lot of issues involving trees on this property. The removal of trees, the location of replacement trees, the size of the replacement trees, variety, etc. And to some extent, I want to ask our planner to address this. Some of those tree-related, as I'll call them, issues may be not within our jurisdiction to deal with tonight. And is it possible, Scott, that you can talk to the board, Mr. Singer and the applicant, about the issues as you see it?
Yeah, so as the board may recall, I believe it was last year, in 2024, the township was required to adopt a new tree removal and replacement ordinance in conjunction with state mandated other stormwater management ordinances related to renewal of their MS4 permits from NJDEP. So we adopted those ordinances. They are not adopted under Chapter 104, which is our land use code. They are under a township code, much like the Affordable Housing Code requirements. So in the review of this application, we discussed the issue with Ms. Costco and also with the township attorney, Mr. Gillespie, relative to any relief. The applicant is proposing a number of trees that complies with the total number required under our township ordinance. They are proposing a mix of some trees that are oversized, but some trees that are undersized. And because technically that would require relief under that, we talked about that jurisdictional issue with Mr. Gillespie, and he concurred that it would be outside, much like an affordable housing waiver or an accessible handicap parking waiver. It's not really under the purview of the board to be able to grant that kind of relief, or a wetlands buffer, for example. So I think they can present what's here. The board could potentially make some suggestions, but it's our understanding that the ultimate relief of that calculation will lie with township committee.
Mr. Kingsbury, are you in agreement with that assessment?
Yes, it's not part of the zoning ordinance, and it's outside the purview of the board.
So, based on your advice, this board could, if it wanted to, make recommendations or suggest that some procedure plan be followed with respect to the trees, and then that relief on that issue would have to be from committee.
The board can always make suggestions, and it's on your attorney to know what to do about it, if it wants to deviate from the ordinance.
Okay.
But it's not before this.
Right. So, Mr. Singer, with that, we might be able to carve out some of these tree issues tonight.
I understand. It's treated as an approval from an outside agency, similar to an outside agency, so we'd have to present it to the township committee.
Right. There are quite a few tree issues in here.
Okay.
If you could, I'd like to try to address the Alimo letter first, because it's a pretty long letter, a lot of issues. But if you have met with Alimo, as I suspect you probably have, and perhaps ironed out most of these or many of these, it would save us all a lot of aggravation if we could refer to the paragraphs by number and indicate that there will be compliance or there has been some compromise, whatever it may be.
Understood.
Yes, I've spoken to the applicant's engineer, went over the letter with him as well, and looks like he would like to comply with most of my comments, I believe, and especially my stormwater comments, to make sure that the basin design is up to current stormwater regulations. So he and I, we've been talking for the past week on this, and I believe that in good faith, he will comply with everything I have put in my letter.
All right, well, we'll hear that from the applicant's engineer, but thank you very much for that background.
Sir, raise your right hand, please. Do you swear or affirm testimony you give tonight to be truthful, truthful, truthful?
I do. Sam Renero with SR3 Engineers. I'm the civil engineer for the site. And
Sam, before you start reviewing the letters, why don't you just give an overview of what we're doing?
sure, the project is located on Route 38 and Laurel Ridge Road. The property is bounded by Route 38 on the north, Laurel Ridge Road on the west. On the east, it's bounded by the Paper Street Sandra Lane. It's an extension of existing Sandra Lane. And on the south, the Laurel Ridge development. The property is 3.8 acres. As you know, it did receive use variance approval in spring of this year. The application is a 4-lot subdivision, 3 homes. The fourth lot, there's 3 lots that are single-family homes. The fourth lot is for the shared driveway and for a lot at the corner, which will include our stormwater management. That was at the suggestion of board professionals. And our layout also was prepared with the input from Mr. Taylor and Mr. Desai with Alimo. And there will be a few more little changes to that layout at the suggestion of the professionals. But I think, Mr. Singer, I think the board would like to hear about some of our stormwater, how we're going to address the stormwater comments, it sounds like, Mr. Chairman, is that correct?
Well, it's part of it, but let's go through the,
Sure.
Mr. Desai's letter, July 2, revised July 3.
Let me, Mr. Singer, if I might, just because some testimony is necessary in this regard, and I don't know whether, Mr. Singer, you have to bring Mr. Polani up for this or not, but who will be responsible for the maintenance of the stormwater facilities that you're going to be discussing in a minute?
The homeowners association.
All right. Okay.
Why don't we just go through this letter?
I wanted to clarify as we go through the letter that I think we can address all of Alimo's letter. I think he said most. We believe we can address all of the letter except for the few items where we're asking for ordinance relief. Other than that, I'm confident looking through this letter that we can address all of the concerns of the board professionals. There are waivers that we will be requesting that are relatively more administrative in nature. Number 1 is regarding the location of buildings, checklist item number 7. We will ask for a partial waiver on that item. We will show buildings and structures within 100 feet of the tract, and we just may not have all of the detailed survey for the properties surrounding the site, but we will show the buildings adjacent to the site, especially one of the residents had significant concerns for the project, so we will show their buildings for the adjacent site, the adjacent neighbors. Checklist item number 9 is, I do not believe a waiver is necessary, but it asks for any isolated trees over 5 feet in diameter, 5 inches in diameter, but there are no isolated trees on this site. We do show the tree line, and we have done an extensive tree survey of any trees 8 inches in diameter or larger. So we believe we comply with that. We also will show proposed utility cross easements on the plan. So we believe we comply with checklist item number 9. Number 10, checklist item number 10, number 3 on page 2. We're asking for a partial waiver in addition regarding topography 200 feet from the site. We will propose showing it 50 feet around the site, and so it would be, in effect, a partial waiver for checklist item number 9. Our application previously included a waiver request for checklist items 11 and 18. Those are for typical cross-sections of existing streets. Since we're not changing Laurel Ridge Road, we asked for a waiver of the profile for Laurel Ridge Road and Route 38. Next is location name and proposed cross-sections, centerline profiles of all new streets. Since this is only a shared driveway, not even sure it's a street, I guess it does comply with some requirements of a street, but we would ask for a waiver from that level of detail since this is a shared driveway. So those are the waiver requests for the checklist.
All right, well, let's deal with those right now.
Sure.
Mr. Desai, comments on their position on these waiver issues?
Well, I spoke to them about this, and I'm okay with everything that they mentioned in this for the partial waivers and for complying for the tree survey, and then the 2 waivers requested for 4 and 5. So,
All right, I know it's an engineering issue, but does our planner have any comment on this?
Yeah, no issues with any of the requests.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, are you moving to the site plan section?
Well, I believe we can, I'm happy to go through every comment, but I believe we can comply with every item on the site plan section.
I think the easy way to do that, given what you just said, is to just go head note by head note and say everything under that head note that we agree with, or if you don't, we can then focus on the one item. So under the site plan head note on the Alimo letter of July 2nd, you're in agreement with 6 through 10 under site plan.
That is correct.
Okay. So now moving on to grading plan.
And
items.
similarly, yes, with grading plan, these are all relatively routine comments that we can address and have no problem complying with those comments.
So you agree to comply with grading plans number 11 through 21, correct?
That is correct.
All right, so moving on now to page 4 of the Alimo letter, the stormwater management, which you previously addressed briefly.
Yes, thank you. For stormwater management, I also could say we will comply with all of the comments, but there probably should be a little more discussion about how we will do that. There are comments, and a lot of them really center around the soil tests we received for the site. They showed good soils at different elevations than we anticipated. In addition, seasonal high water was shown at an elevation that was higher than we anticipated. So we did some analysis since the time of receiving this letter and now, and there are 2 scenarios. We're going to send the soil test group out there again regardless. That's going to happen regardless of what happens at this meeting. And they're going to retest not only the area of our basin, but also areas to the east and west of the basin, with the goal being to keep the basin where it is. That would be our end goal. If the tests show that that is the best location for the basin, we will have to raise the basin bottom a few feet, I would say 2.5 feet, and the basin will have to get a little wider. So visually, in some ways, it'll look a little better because it's not as deep, but it will have to be a little wider to comply and have the same volume as it does currently because the basin's shown a little deeper right now. So, but if those tests show some slam dunk areas where the seasonal high water is deeper, where we have better sandy soils, we will use that area as long as it doesn't significant or change really at all the layout of the homes that we've shown before you this evening. Go to the east or to the west a little bit. I think that would be preferable if we could keep the basin kind of the depth that's shown, minimizing the footprint of the basin. That would probably be a better solution for all of us. But that's the way we're looking at it, that we can make this work. It's a matter of how. It's definitely not a matter of if. We can make this work one way or another. I did go over this with Mr. Desai, and I think he pretty much agrees with our methodology. I can show an exhibit showing roughly what that would look like, but that may be something that's the level of detail that's not necessary this evening, but I'm happy to do that if the board wishes.
And ultimately, whatever you wind up doing has to be approved by Mr. Desai in any case.
That is correct.
Mr.
Yes.
Desai, what is your response to what's been laid out as their proposal?
So I agree, everything that they are going to propose, the new basin design, the new stormwater management, will have to go to me again for additional comments and review. And then after that, probably one more round of comments. And I think everything should comply. There should be no problems.
So if granted, it would be subject to further review by Alimo for compliance with stormwater management issues as Alimo sees them. You agree?
Yeah.
And on this, because there's some talk about changing the shape, depth of the basin, I want to ask our planner to weigh in on this.
Yes, so 2 things. One would be that the relief, any relief on the reforestation from the governing body should wait until the basin is reconfigured and signed off by Mr. Desai. So we only have to bother mayor and committee once with a request, because that number will likely change as the basin gets bigger.
That's logical, yes.
The second is, you had mentioned possibly extending the basin to the west or potentially to the east. If you extend it to the east, would the basin actually go onto the residential lot?
No, if we extended it, we would make sure the basin stayed on a common lot. So we would adjust that property line as long as it doesn't create a variance, which it would not. The properties are all oversized.
Okay, so I just wanted the board to be aware of that. So that lot in the top right, basically, you need to point to that lot.
You can point that lot out on the diagram.
Referring to the site plan,
Just point to that lot line. That
That's the lot line right
up
here.
there. That line may have to shift to the right or east to some degree. It wouldn't trigger any variances. My preference would be that it not be on the private property, but question.
Thank you.
But wholly within that common.
and it's our preference also.
In some ways, that's almost preferable, because we are doing some tree preservation along Laurel Ridge Road, which was part of the testimony. So it would be my hope that the basin expansion doesn't extend all the way to the Laurel Ridge right-of-way. If for some reason that vegetation does need to be removed, we would suggest that that area be replanted and buffered, so that we don't have a large visible basin right up against the Laurel Ridge right there.
That's fine.
All right. Does that conclude the applicant's response to the grading plan portion of the Alimo report?
I'm sorry, you mean the stormwater management portion? Yes, it does.
Stormwater management portion, I'm so sorry.
No, that's no problem, and that is items number 22 through 33, including sub-letters A through F.
A
on
through
33.
F, all right.
Construction details, we will comply with number 34 through 37.
Good.
General comments, just a very minor comment is that individual lot grading plans should be submitted for review at the time of building permit. That will be at a later date, and we do agree to that, but it would not be part of this application. All the other items, 38 through 49, we will comply, and I see no concerns.
Okay, it's actually 38 through 54 if you turn the page.
Oh, thank you. Yes, 38 through 54.
So you will comply with general comments 38 through 54?
Yes.
All right. Mr. Singer, you have an expert that's going to address the Taylor design comments?
Yes, he does.
Okay.
He's back.
Let's go to the Taylor letter of June 25, 2025. And can we deal with this letter in the same way that we dealt with the Alimo letter?
Yes.
So let's go to the general comments on page 3 of 5, so section C, 1 through, looks like it's 1 through 11.
Comment number C1 asks for testimony, and as we testified earlier, the HOA will operate to maintain the basins and handle trash pickup. This is not my area of expertise, so if the board would wish to have some specific details, but I can say from an engineering standpoint, the basin, maintenance of the driveways, and trash pickup will be handled by the HOA.
Mr. Singer, has the HOA agreement been submitted yet?
No, typically, it would be a declaration of easements, covenants, and restrictions with respect to the ownership of the basin and the common area. And the members of that association would be the homeowners. The covenants would run with the land. We would set up a nonprofit for the association as a corporation. It's very similar to other small associations. About the budget, Mr. Palante has investigated the cost on an annual basis for the trash, maintenance of the roads, snow removal, cutting of the grass within the basin. So he's prepared to testify to that if the board wishes to get into the costs of that. But it would say there would be a treasurer, secretary of the association, which would be the homeowners.
Mr. Kingsbury, with regard to the HOA documents, are these matters that, as a condition of approval, you should review and comment on?
That will be in the resolution.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's comment C5 of our report that Ryan, Bob, and I all take a look at those to make sure they're consistent with the use variance for maintenance and all other issues. And just two other points to clarify. All trash pickup will be handled along Laurel Ridge Road, and there will be pads out there for the trash cans.
Yes.
And that there's no expectation, and it should probably be in the HOA documents, that school buses will not come down the common driveway either. Everything will be handled out at Laurel Ridge Road.
Yes.
Including trash.
I have a question, please. So there's just going to be 3 homes in this HOA, right? Just the 3 of them. So all the fees, all the maintenance, the fees that they will be charged is going to have to take care of all that maintenance, right? So it could be a little expensive for them. Because it's only 3 homes, or am I on the wrong track here?
No, there's only 3 homes, but the maintenance is really, the cost is really minimal. You know, the grass cutting for the basin, the sealing the road, we have estimates of every 5 years. Macadam replacement, 15 years. So there is, you know, it's not going to be too expensive.
Okay, you're probably more familiar with smaller HOAs like this size than I am, I'm sure. Okay, thank you.
Mr. McKay? Can I
Yes.
ask a question? I don't know if
Sure.
it's too early, and if it is, please let me know. So we're talking about the HOA. From a zoning official's point of view, is that because this is actually in the professional office zone, there's a use variance here. Is the HOA and the township, how are they going to set the standards for, is it what size sheds, style of fencing, things such as that? Because again, it's not in a residential zone per se, it's a use variance issue. Again, I may be misunderstanding something, but if this moves forward, how is our office in the zoning office going to handle this and not making people come back to the board for pools, sheds, fence, things such as that?
I think at the time that the use variance was approved, that we designed it in accordance with the R1 zoning
So
standards.
is that how we're going to handle it then? That's what I just
it
need
would-
to know.
it would, you know,
And then will that be
well-
in the HOA? Does the HOA have any say, like a size shed, a style fence, or?
we weren't going to get into that nitty-gritty. I think we would leave it up to the homeowners, and
deal
as
with
long as
so
it
many of
complies
them
with the
here.
setbacks and within the R1.
I'd be happy that if they didn't have any say in anything.
Yeah, no, I don't think we're
Okay.
going to get into
All right, so good,
restricting
then
it.
if we're going to use the R1 zone as a reference, that makes
Correct.
our office a lot easier then. Okay.
Yeah, and I think that was in our use variance letter. I believe it was adopted as a condition of approval. But
Okay.
it probably makes sense for the board to reiterate that.
The reason I say that, I don't recall it, so I apologize, but I think it's a good idea then, Scott, to state that as well.
Yes.
Yeah, I
we
think
recommend-
we did have testimony previously about this being treated as if it was an R1 zone.
Okay.
In
All right,
fact.
perfect.
Correct.
And so that fact is just being reconfirmed by you again tonight, Mr. Singer, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
The reason I need to know that is even though there's only 3 houses, fencing is going to be a big issue here because in the R1 zone, there's no front yard fencing allowed in that zone. So whatever the setback is, let's say 30, 40 feet, whatever it is, the front yard setback, they cannot have any fencing in that area. So I just want to make sure that when I'm talking with homeowners is that, they're aware of that.
Okay. And I'll put that in the governing documents.
Okay.
All right, let's get back to the general comments. Mr. Singer, perhaps your engineer could discuss items 7 and 8 a little more specifically. Those have to do with setback issues and,
I think some of those are just labeling issues in terms of how certain yard areas would be defined under our ordinance that I think are relatively minor administrative issues. And then we had talked to Mr. Renero about some possible minor rotation of the home sites, which I think they had agreed to.
Yep. Yes.
Can we see what those look, is this, does this have the rotations, this thing, or is this what we have?
No.
Oh.
This
Can you
does
show me
not show it.
what the rotations are?
Sure. I'll verbally explain
Yeah.
the revisions. There are 2 rotations. One would be this house rotating approximately 30 degrees counterclockwise so that the side wall is parallel to Route 38. Second, and that is the lot on the northeast corner.
What is the proposed lot number?
Lot 7.02. And then lot 7.01, we would be proposing rotating the building so that it faces north, with the idea being that it would be facing the road directly, and then the driveway would come out to the side to the east, and that would fit a little better in the site. So it doesn't change the amount of trees removed, it's really just rotations, rearranging.
There's more to provide some better backyards. These are sort of nice, large estate lots, and just a minor tweak, so they can take advantage of some of that larger space.
And the final change would be to lot 7.04, moving the property line about 20 feet to the north to give that lot a little bigger and better front yard. So we didn't talk about that with Mr. Taylor, but that is a change we're going to make. Very minor, obviously does not create variances. It makes the lots about the same, about the same size. They're all about 0.7 acres.
Thank you.
all right, the balance of the general comments, that would be 8 through 11. Is there agreement on compliance with those?
We do have a request for a variance for sidewalks along Route 38. We don't believe they're really necessary, and they also would not be connecting to any other sidewalks within 2,000 feet of the site. So we would be asking for ordinance relief from that provision.
Another sidewalk
Another
debate.
sidewalk issue.
Had the sidewalk debate before
Yeah.
in various places in town. What are our professionals' advice, particularly our planner, on this sidewalk issue on Route 38?
Each site is unique.
We have learned that from experience.
Another more recent application, there are some sidewalks in existing neighborhoods that are much closer. I know that I believe we already have existing sidewalk on both sides of Laurel Ridge Road that lead out to Route 38. As we go east to the site, we have sort of an odd roadway and intersection configuration, but as a general rule, the ordinance has a preference. We know that some folks walk and ride their bike along Route 38. So it is a difficult decision. Obviously, it's always safer for folks to not be walking on the shoulder of the road, but really in the board's discretion. The other application that we have more recently had a couple of, it was located right between sort of a high-volume commercial area and a bus stop and another senior neighborhood, and, you know, that was slightly different.
Yeah, well, let me make a comment, and maybe Mr. Singer would not be aware of this, nor his professionals, but just east on Route 38 beyond this site is a potential site for multi-unit affordable housing. So, and that's already been publicized with the housing plan that this board recommended to the town recently to adopt. And so, in my mind, as one member of the board, sidewalks would be potentially beneficial on this site because they lead to the affordable housing, possible affordable housing site, and the population there is larger, and therefore the argument for sidewalks on this particular property subdivision is supported by that. I don't know whether our planner would agree with that analysis, but if you do, please speak up.
Well, obviously, the increased population means an increased need and demand for that. We know that there are some expansions proposed at the intersection of Hainesport and Mount Laurel Road, Route 38. We also know that the Wolfington bus property is up for sale, and potentially there could be a commercial lot located there. It could be a draw for pedestrians as well.
Mr. Singer, what I'd like to do is get a sense of the board on this sidewalk issue now, so that we dispose of it one way or the other.
May I ask how far that the property is with respect to the affordable housing?
It is nominally referred to as the Hitco lot. If you go up to the Creek Road intersection on Route 38, so if you walked east on Route 38 from it's not Sandra Lane, but the other, yeah. If you walked east on Route 38 heading toward Mount Holly, you come up to the next intersection, and right there, there's the start of a triangular lot that's basically cleared right now. And the project would start there and continue up Route 38 for a couple of lots. So it's quite close.
Mr. McKay, it's actually, you could see it on your site.
Yes.
It's the very corner.
Yes, it is. It's just barely visible, but there it is.
That's it.
So can I have a roll call, please, on the sense of the board with regard to the sidewalks on this? And just a roll call, and yes for sidewalks or no for sidewalks.
Mrs. Twerdy?
I know last time you started with me, I said, I don't know. Remember that
You
answer?
want me to start? I'll start.
Okay, you start.
Yes for sidewalks.
I would say yes too, Paul, yes.
Mr. Novarita?
No.
Mrs. Ludden?
Yes.
Mr. C. Murphy?
I think you have to keep your option open. I would say yes.
Ms. Cosco?
I think in keeping in mind all of the concerns that were expressed in the applicant's previous application and the concerns for safety and the dangers of Route 38, as well as the connectivity for future opportunities, not only on the east side, but potentially on the west side, I think having a sidewalk would be a great benefit to the community.
Mr. McKay?
Yes.
Mr. R. Murphy?
Yes.
Okay. So we have an overwhelming sense
Yes, 7-1.
yes for the sidewalk. So you know where the vote's headed in that regard, Mr. Singh?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Where would the sidewalks go?
It would be within the right-of-way, I assume.
Yeah. And I guess they'd go from the cross street, name of which I keep forgetting.
Laurel Ridge.
Laurel Ridge Road.
Laurel Ridge Road, go from Laurel Ridge Road to, along Route 38, all the way to the end of the property,
Correct.
which is practically to the corner. Now, I guess that raises an interesting question, Scott. You have the Paper Street Sandra Lane at that end of the property. Does the sidewalk stop at the edge of Sandra Lane, or does it go through the Sandra Lane property?
It actually, Mr. McKay, it actually goes around all of Sandra Lane. At the end of the cul-de-sac, it goes around.
Okay. Maybe, can you point out Sandra Lane to us on the?
Sandra Lane is the paper street along the east property line, and then the road, I believe it's Creek Road, comes in at a slight angle near the end of the property.
Right. So where does, we know where the sidewalk starts, but where does the sidewalk stop?
You mean
Well, I would
along,
assume we would end it at a handicap ramp at Creek Road.
Scott? Thoughts?
Yeah, obviously, if that portion of Sandra Lane is vacated, that would become part of this property and part of the frontage on Creek Road. So I think it might make sense. Route 38 is really the larger share of that, but I agree that there would likely be a requirement for a depressed curb there. There's a very short segment that would take it to where Sandra Lane is vacated, maybe another 75 feet or so, 60 feet. If we don't make that turn down Creek Road, if sidewalk ever comes up Creek, we'd have a 60-foot gap forever. So I think if we're going to do it on 38, it should extend that short section of Creek Road as well.
Taylor, you're referring to this is angle right here?
Yeah, that stub, I think that stub is what he's talking about.
so
It
Scott,
takes it
that's
over-
the county
takes it
side
over
of
to
Creek Road?
Right.
Do they have to give an approval on that? That's the county side of Creek Road.
Yeah, they'd have to get a letter. You're going to need a letter from the county and from the state anyway. So it'll at least have to be sent to them.
Are we in agreement with this now? Mr. Singer?
We are. The applicant indicated to me just now that, his concern that it's going to attract children onto the sidewalk, with their bikes. And-
Better there than the street?
Well, I agree, but they wouldn't be in the street, but now they're going to be on the sidewalk, and where do they get off from there? Because, it's a sidewalk starting somewhere, starting and ending without connecting. And so that's the concern.
Who maintains that sidewalk then when it snows?
That would be township.
The owner.
No, you would,
The HOA?
yeah.
But we have to shovel our sidewalk in front of our house.
But it would go within the right of way, right? It's not going to go on it's not going on private property. Sidewalk would go within the township right of way.
Sidewalks are commonly in the right of way.
Yeah.
NJDOT. This is NJDOT right away.
Right, so it wouldn't be the association, it would be whoever, I don't know.
But along a development in the state highway, there's typically lawn area within the right-of-way, driveways, sidewalks, and other required improvements. And I've yet to see DOT shovel a sidewalk or mow the lawn in front of a developed site. They'll do an undeveloped right-of-way where it's woodlands. They'll come in once a year, but typically in front of Wawa or any other site, that landowner generally maintains that area.
I mean, for example, the point made by the Wawa, across the street, there's sidewalk that runs from the traffic light corner in front of the Wawa and all the way down, quite a ways down before it stops. So I suspect, I don't know, but I suspect that was maintained and shoveled, if you will, by the Wawa people.
I mean, I think that's one of the reasons for our request for a ordinance relief on this matter. If the homeowners association is burdened with shoveling sidewalk that's really not even near their house, I think that adds a little burden to the HOA that we would prefer not to have.
Well, like the Glen, they have a contract with a company that does maintain their right-of-ways and sidewalks.
Who's going to plow your street? Homeowners aren't going to do it.
Yeah, we will use outside contractors.
So that the maintenance of the sidewalk or the upkeep can be done through the contract,
Sure.
which is generally done with other HOAs.
Right. And the HOA hires the shoveler.
How does a board work with just 3 homeowners? Is, like,
All,
everybody has to take a position, or?
well, it's usually majority, it's not unanimous, it'd be a majority vote. But there'll be a president and a vice president. And
You sell your house and it's like, oh, by the way, you're the treasurer?
That's right, yeah.
Okay.
So, one of the pleasures of living in a small community.
Gotcha.
Just
curious.
Just to take up on that, and not to get diverted to HOA minutia, but what would happen under the proposed HOA agreement if all 3 of the homeowners refused to participate in the HOA, said they don't want to serve?
Well, then one would serve. One homeowner would serve. If none of them would serve, then they would hire an outside management company. But it would be required as part of their deed. It's a deed restriction that runs with the land. And so they know going in, because they'll have the documents along with the contract, they know going in what their obligations are and what the responsibilities are.
And who would be the plaintiff taking the recalcitrant 3 homeowners to court to hire a general manager or somebody like that?
Well, one of the homeowners would, if to enforce the rules of the association.
I believe that the township would, from a stormwater management standpoint, the township, under the stormwater regs, has the ability to cite an entity for noncompliance with their required stormwater management maintenance practices. And I think similarly, through a violation issue, if one of their requirements is property maintenance and that's obligated to an HOA, then the township would have enforcement powers for noncompliance with their use variance and subdivision approval.
So that would eventually trickle down to Kathy's office.
I don't think so. No, that wouldn't, it would mainly, something like that is really kind of a combination of zoning as well as code enforcement. It's kind of a dual action there.
That should be a provision in the HOA documents giving the township the authority to enforce it, as well as any of the members of the HOA.
So make a note of that, Mr. Singh.
So I have a question, because it is so small. Is it better off to initially have a management company do this compared to 3 homeowners?
Well, my experience is that most management companies don't want to get involved with 3 units.
Okay.
Just, typically it's a $10, $15 a month charge for a management company, so they're not going to do it for $100 a month. It's just not.
I just feel like it's less ajna for
Well,
three neighbors to have to deal with it.
It's well, there's really not that much to deal with once you set your contracts in place with your outside contractors. Yeah.
All right.
Ask me that question later.
Mr. Singer,
I will.
this whole debate for the last 10 minutes has been on item 9 in general comments, the sidewalks, but 10 and 11, is that agreed to?
We are requesting a variance, as pointed out by Mr. Taylor, regarding one lot which does not have frontage, lot 7.04, I believe. This lot does not have frontage Route 38 or Laurel Ridge Road, so just the technical variance, because I stated earlier that we didn't believe the driveway was a road. That also applies that we would need a variance for that reason, since it doesn't have frontage on an actual roadway as Route 38 or Laurel Ridge Road. All of the other lots do. So we would ask for that technical variance for lot 7.04.
What number are you referring to in the letter?
It's in Mr. Taylor's letter.
Item 3 on page 2.
Page 2?
Item 3 on page 2.
Yeah, we're going backwards, okay. I see.
But it was related to the setback issues in number 7.
Right, I understand.
And this was contemplated during the use variance that that would be a private shared drive. It's just a technicality in the municipal land use law under chapter 25 that this would be an isolated lot, not fronting on a street.
All right. I think we have completed the responses to the general comments, correct? Mr. Singer, you agree?
Yes.
And then building design, the planner comments that they haven't received architectural designs. You're going to submit those, I assume.
Yes.
Lighting, aren't there going to be some streetlights on this private drive?
No, there's an existing street light at the corner of Laurel Ridge Road near where the driveway comes out onto the street. That light will remain, but we're not proposing any lights. We want to keep this a small residential look. These are just shared driveways, so we're not going to line it with large lights. However, we would propose small lanterns, say about 6 feet tall, at each driveway.
At the end of each driveway.
Where the driveway
Where the
meets.
driveway meets the street.
So where the driveway, where the individual driveways meet the shared driveway, yes. So one at this corner of the driveway, one at this corner of the driveway, and one at this corner of the driveway. So we'd have 3 lanterns proposed, one for each house, where the driveways meet the shared driveway.
Well, would that trigger a lighting plan still?
No, these would not be intended to show like ISO lumens and foot candle levels. The purpose of those are more decorative and visual, so they can see where their driveway is.
Yeah, I think they could just show and label them
On the
on the
plan?
landscape plan or the site plan.
Okay.
There'll be a lantern in each drive.
Is the
Yeah.
builder providing them?
Yes.
Yeah.
So they're they're going to be uniform?
Yes.
And
I'll show a detail of it on our plans.
Right, and I guess part of the HOA agreement is that they'll be maintained too.
Well, they would be owned by each individual property owner. They would not be HOA maintained.
It still would be maintained.
It'd be maintained by the property owner, not the HOA.
Right, okay.
But yes, it would maintain, yes.
All right, and then we have a series of landscape comments, F, starting on page 4 and going all the way to page 12.
Comment 12, not page 12.
Comment 12. Comment 12.
And you agree to comply, work through those issues? Sam?
Yeah, the only item that we would like to add is we're considering a fence along Route 38 to help with the buffer. We often, I know the applicants maybe can speak further, but often we do add fences along the rear of our properties. So we're proposing a fence, an opaque fence, along Route 38 and along the side property lines for the residents. So that would add an additional visual buffer, and we also think that would help with the aesthetics from Route 38 and blocking the view through Route 38. We also thought there was a practical improvement where people wouldn't be wandering onto Route 38. Perhaps it would save a child from running out in the Route 38. We thought a fence would be a better option. I know earlier to discuss that may be a variance, so we wanted to bring that up this evening.
Leave the conservation.
So with that fencing then, is that part of the HOA's maintenance? And the reason I say this, especially if it's going to be any form of vinyl fencing, is that we know when they maintain the yards or outer areas, they have a very bad habit with their weed whackers to destroy these vinyl fences over a period of time. So who will be maintaining that fence for any form of like slat replacement or anything such as that?
Within the common area, within the basin lot, it would be the responsibility of the association.
Okay.
What is the proposed, Mr. Singer, what is the proposed material that fence is going to be made of, and how high is it proposed? Mr. Palani, you want to be sworn?
Yes, sir. We swear or affirm the testimony you give will be the truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth.
Yes.
Name?
Frank Plante.
Question is, what would the material and the height of the fence be along the rear and side?
It would be the standard 6-foot vinyl fence. And then I do it with all my houses is the 6-foot vinyl fence. Just aesthetically, it looks a lot better. And then with each house, that would be, obviously within the setbacks, each house would have that, the backyard enclosed. So that way, if they have a kid or a dog, they know they can let the back door open and let them go, and they're not going to, run away and.
So that way, the three lots, their fencing that they propose would be able to tie into the perimeter fence of their lots?
Right.
Okay. Are we looking at a certain color, Scott? Maybe a mute color, tan versus white, or what are your thoughts?
I think something that's not white would probably blend in better. I know we're saving some woodland and vegetation out there, and the white may be a little less, or a little too stark. So maybe a tan.
A tan. Yeah, a tan would look good.
Something that ties it, whatever color the homes are, I would probably pick one of those colors and then sort of carry that through, at least through Route 38 and the Creek Road frontage.
Yep.
Those were the ones, and I know it was raised a little bit for safety during the use variance discussion.
Yeah.
Whether or not those other rear yards, I think is really up to you. But I think because that is a street frontage, the board should probably at least evaluate that as a variance along there, and grant that variance for a 6-foot-high front yard fence along Route 38 frontage.
Right, because that's 35 feet is that front yard setback on the R1 zone if we're going by those guidelines.
So the variance is requested, and it would be, Mr. Singer, do you agree, subject to or conditioned on approval of type and color by the planner?
Correct.
All right, have we covered the landscape issue as much as we can
I have a question.
tonight? Yes.
I'm a little confused, so I need a little, items 3, 4, and 5. We talked about the
On-
street thing was part of the township committee, so should that be removed from this letter or removed from our consideration, or is it? That's the part I'm confused about.
Items 3, 4, and 5 under landscape,
Yes, sir.
existing trees. I think we can make, and Mr. Kingsbury, tell me if you agree, we can make recommendations in this resolution.
You can make recommendations, yes.
And so we could-
Ultimately, it's the township.
Well, 5 is under your jurisdiction, that is the tree protection fencing. So that, and they had already agreed that they will comply. There is some relationship between comments 3 and 4 that are from a site design standpoint and buffering standpoint that they've agreed to comply with. What we're saying is the ultimate calculation of their reforestation ordinance under ordinance 2025-24, or 2024-25, I think it That final calculation will be established and any relief considered by mayor and committee. But they've agreed to try to increase some of those buffers and try to make any of those changes. And then wherever they have a deficit, they were required, I believe, under the current calculation, before the basin reconfiguration, to have a planting requirement of 199 trees. Any additional buffer trees or anything else that they provide will count toward that requirement. But then ultimately, the governing body, mayor and committee, would have the decision on, yes, we think that some of these trees being slightly oversized and a certain percentage being slightly undersized is acceptable or is not acceptable.
So we're not deciding upon that?
Yeah,
As
so
part of this?
that's,
Okay, that's all we need.
Did we
sorry
talk,
about the long answer.
did we talk about any fencing around the basin? Is that going to be required?
Yes, and we will show fence around the basin.
Okay, we'll show the material and,
Yes.
okay, thank you.
What is planted in the basin? Is it,
It's an infiltration basin, so it'll be sand bottom, but along the sides, we will be showing some vegetation, some shrubbery.
will there be any, so it's sand in the bottom?
Yes.
Nothing growing in the sand?
Right, because of the infiltration, we had to show sand. We had a very significant infiltration requirement for this project.
So Sam, in terms, so we know that on that top right lot, we're planning to do a 6-foot high fence on the residential lot. Around the basin lot, what size or height or type of fence are you contemplating for that?
So along Route 38, we would probably end the fence, we're open to suggestions on how that fence is configured. We would probably end the fence at the end of the residential lot. And then the basin fence, we normally show a split rail fence with black grading on the bottom to avoid trash blowing around. And that's usually a split rail fence around the basin for safety purposes. It does have, it does provide good protection around the fence, around the basin. So that's what we're proposing there, but we would end the vinyl fence at the end of the residential lot.
Okay. I just wanted to be clear to that, only because I think having a 6-foot high vinyl fence that close to Laurel Ridge
Okay, yeah,
would be a little severe. but I think-
and we're not protecting any residents here, so I think we agree.
Okay.
We believe that with the fence shown along Route 38, that we believe the 25-foot conservation area is generous and adequate. So we believe that that should remain as, if the board agrees. I don't believe the 25-foot conservation area is required by the ordinance, so we would request to keep that conservation area the width that's shown on the plans.
Can I ask a question regarding that? Because I'm not seeing that. Is that 25-foot conservation area going to be within inside the lot lines of the homeowners?
Yes.
So what I would request, because we've done this through the years here, is that, because they're not supposed to be doing anything back there, no clearing, no planting, no anything. And some of our other builders have defined the space with markers. They've actually put some forms of like corner fencing in there to show where that is, just like maybe a piece like this. Because what happens is, through the years, I've had to put people on notice about these things due to the fact is that they slowly go into these conservation areas because it's their yard, and they slowly disturb them. They slowly, remove things, put things in there, kids' swing sets, things such as that. So in defining those corners there, up front when the house is being sold, that they know exactly that this area here is established.
That's fine.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so that suggestion is agreed to.
Yeah, I think, Sam, wasn't that part of the use variance discussion, that there would be a 25-foot
And we agree to it. Yep.
conservation
Yep.
area?
We agree to it.
Yeah, but the markers are a new,
Yeah.
issue.
Yeah. I think there was comments in the letter asking to increase the size of the conservation area, and that's what I was reacting to earlier.
Right.
I think, in both the Environmental Commission and in Mr. Taylor's letter, so that, yes, tree protection. So then all the other items in the letter, we would agree to between items 6 through 12. We will comply.
Of landscape, part F of the letter.
That is correct. That's the last section.
Right. All right.
And if the board pleases, I can go through the Environmental Commission's comments.
Yes, I was going to ask you to do that, but you took the words out of my mouth. Go ahead.
I can make this short. We agree to all the items in the letter.
Accept.
That's
With the
items-
exception
that's
of what I
items-
talked about with the width of the conservation area. We would
That's
request
items-
to keep that at 25.
Right. It's A through F of the Environmental Commission's letter of July 1, 2025.
On the diagram that you have there, there's, I guess, those are trees, right, on the thing?
Yes.
Can you show me, like, looks like there's a line, is that just is that where the 38 comes into that property there, next to the stormwater basin? There's a lot of trees in that area. Where is the 25-foot conservation buffer on that front property compared to?
Approximately this location, 25 feet from the right-of-way of Route 38.
Okay, so where the line sort of goes down, it looks like there's preserved trees. Is that not part of conservation? Who owns that part right next to the shared driveway before you get to that other house?
That's all on the lot, and those trees would be preserved as part of our tree protection plan.
Okay, but the homeowner wouldn't have to conserve those trees based on the 25-foot and if it's a straight 25-foot, they could cut down those trees under our ordinance or whatever. Is that?
Subject to the town ordinance on
Yeah.
tree removal, yeah.
So they're not in the conservation area then, where that one line goes where you're preserving?
They're not in the 25-foot wide formal conservation area that's maintained, but those are trees that are preserved on the plan.
Does the conservation area extend along the basin up to the street corner? Or does it stop where you propose?
There's a pause in the location of the basin because the basin has to be large enough to handle all the volume. So that basin does go near Route 38, and then the conservation area begins again along Laurel Ridge Road. Both sides of the driveway on Laurel Ridge Road, and then along the southern property line.
Right. Okay. All right. I think that covers all the comments, but I'll just ask the professionals, did you have any further comments to make on this? Did I miss anything? Did we miss anything on the first round?
Everything's covered.
Not that I'm aware of, and if I did, we'll make them do it anyway.
All right. Well, let me then ask, the board's asked some questions here and there, but let me open it to full questioning by the board. Mr. Singer or the engineer or Mr. Palazzi?
I'd just like to go back to the sidewalk again. I think that, like, as our board here, I think we have to start being a little consistent. Like, I think that if we are going to put sidewalks on 38 and ask people to do that, then we have to be consistent with the properties around it. And I think that depending on what goes on in the Wolfington area, it might be nice that people could walk, hopefully if they had a crosswalk or something to walk over there and back, whatever. But, and I'd also like to know if there's any information on the safety of like putting a sidewalk along a busy road like that. Is there anything out there or any statistics? You're smiling.
There is. I don't want to cite them now, but generally speaking, having somebody walk on a sidewalk behind a curb is safer than having someone walk on the shoulder and in the right of way.
Okay.
And as a general rule, God forbid something happened, it's easy to be able to say, you know, we did everything. Yes, a child was hit on the sidewalk, but trying to explain to a parent, yes, sidewalks were waived, we didn't raise it, and that's why the child was riding on the shoulder, that's much more difficult. So that's the reason that we have sidewalks, is so folks don't have to walk on the shoulder on the edge of the road. We all know that people look at their phones and they swerve over the white line. We see it happen in front of us and behind us. So whatever we can do to make this safer forever is probably a good thing.
So you're saying, that obviously, there's no guarantees, but you're saying from the way you can look at it now, you think that sidewalks are safer?
Absolutely.
Okay, and I think then we need to be consistent and connect them. You know, we can't say no on this property and yes on another property. If they're gonna have to do it, then everybody on the sides of them, whatever, need to do it as well. That's just my point of view.
All right, other comments or questions by the board, please?
I do have, Bob, these are, CO is required on these?
So there will be, because it is less than 5 units, none of these units will have to be affordable, but yeah, the township code will impose an affordable housing payment in lieu of construction, which
I just
believe
want to
is
make sure that that's
6%.
in
This project would be 6%.
for each house, Paul?
6% of construction?
The
or-
fair market value, or the assessed, equalized assessed value for each of those units, because it's a change in density.
So I want to make sure that that's in the resolution, that's why I'm asking.
What's your equalized assessed values? You 100%?
I don't think,
No,
no, it's 70.
70.69, around that. That was 2024.
All right, hearing no,
And I just want to make, it's not to do with this plan particularly, but is gas planned for the houses? Are they going to have gas appliances?
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Gas appliances, is that?
Most likely,
what's planned?
it'll be serviced by gas.
Can I request when you're making the plans, I don't know how far along, that stoves or ovens are vented to the outside, not just back into the house?
Absolutely.
Okay.
is that Mr. Polani would know the answer to this, is that a kind of a standard way they install gas appliances these days?
Not my house.
Well, no, these days, now.
Yeah,
For
yeah.
now, for
I don't
present
know.
instance.
The gas range, it can, whether it's electric or gas, and, you know, the vent can come out of the back and vent into the, back into the house. But typically, there's either a vent fan would vent above it that can either recirculate back into the house or be vented right out of the back of the house. Or if you have a microwave, same thing, it can be vented out of the back of the house or recirculate back into the house. Obviously, going out of the house is better. That way, you know, you're cooking something and, you know, especially if greasy something, it's not recirculating back into the house and, you know, greasing the kitchen. So yeah, going outside and venting it outside is a better option.
I guess the Environmental Commission is recommending that.
Yes.
Future.
Yeah, no, that's not a
The
problem.
fourth lot, is that going to be a future application?
All right.
No.
All right, I'm going to open it to the public. There being-
Can I just jump in real quick?
Oh, absolutely.
Just want to jump in and say, look, you know, some of us have been here for a long, long time in Hainsport. It's a small town, you know, and I kind of, this whole sidewalk thing, you know, one part of you wants to say, you know, keep the small town feel. The sidewalk seems like it's a commercial feel. It brings in the whiteness and it turns gray and, you know, and that's how I feel personally, but also though, times change. And I don't think we can afford not to put sidewalks in and make everybody put sidewalks in with the way 38 is in these highways and these roads. So I just wanted to say that I agree with, you know, Scott and Karen about, as a board member, that we shouldn't let anyone, we should draw a line in the sand and say from this point forward,
Be consistent.
we be consistent. I agree with you. So I just wanted to say that.
Other board comments?
Actually, if I could just read a comment from Mayor Gilmore, because she's watching from YouTube, from home, recovering. She just wanted to offer that the Kidney Center across the street, which is in front of the Glen at Masons Creek, the senior community, has a management company, and they do take care of the hiring of a landscape and snow removal company, as well as paying bills and things like that. So.
Okay, that's helpful. That's helpful. All right, members of the public sitting in the meeting room. If you have any questions or wish to make any comments about this application, please raise your hand. I see no hands, so we'll close public comment in the room. Has anyone online?
No.
Unmuted? No one has unmuted.
No one's online.
So we'll close public comment. Mr. Singer, any final comments before I ask for a motion?
Just briefly, Mr. Chairman, the applicant has submitted an application for construction of 3 homes. Your professionals have issued its review letters. We've addressed those comments. Our engineer indicates that he's in agreement, and the applicant is in agreement with responding to those comments. And we've agreed to the comments of the board and its recommendations with respect to sidewalks and venting and trees and landscaping, and we would respectfully ask that the board approve for preliminary and final, subject to final reviews by your professionals.
Thank you, Mr. Singer.
Thank you.
Mr. Kingsbury, can you...
I have a comment before we have a vote. They're asking for preliminary and final. And I'm wondering from a planning and engineering perspective if final is appropriate when we don't know where the basin is going yet. That seems to be an important factor of the design of the site.
Well, we've indicated that if we have to tweak the basin, it will still be within the lot that's being created, and it will not affect any bulk requirements within the R1 zone. Obviously, if we are incorrect and it proves otherwise, then we have to come back. But if we shift it to the right or to the left, or go down, or have to fill it and come up and make it a little wider, it's not going to affect the zoning requirements, and it's still will be within the design standards of the statute. So we would ask that it would still, I don't think it would make a difference to the board. It would be up to the professionals to confirm that it meets the state statute and the state requirements.
Does our engineer have any opinion on that?
I think, Scott, you agree, I think preliminary and final.
Yeah, I think final is fine. The roadway access is not going to change. If this required anything greater than a shifting or an east-west elongation, then Ryan and I would bring them back to the board for an amended. But as long as it was sort of as presented based on the characteristics of the soil, unless the board feels the need to see that revised basin length. And I believe Mr. Renaro even has an exhibit up there that shows that. Unless the board sees a reason to only grant preliminary, I think both would be appropriate.
Any member of the board want to discuss or feel strongly about this issue that's just been raised by Mr. Kingsbury? We ought to talk about it. If no one has a strong feeling that final would not be appropriate, given the tweaking that might be done with the basin, please say so. Otherwise, we'll proceed.
Right, the appropriate motion would be to grant preliminary and final subdivision approval with the waivers that were requested and as recommended in the engineer's letter, to grant a variance for one of the lots not having immediate access to a public street. Variance for any positioning of the houses as determined appropriate by the planner, subject to professional review of all the HOA documents, installation of sidewalks where appropriate as approved by the planner, and compliance, of course, with all the terms and conditions of both the engineer's letter and the planner's letter. I would include with that provision to permit a 6-foot high vinyl fence in a color approved by the planner, and compliance to the extent possible with the HTEC recommendations.
Bob, would that include the bulk variance for any fencing along Route 38?
Yeah, and I would, and maybe we specifically address that that will be a 6-foot high fence on the residential lot, and then to the extent necessary, an up to 4-foot high 3-board fence with wire on the basin lot, because that's still sort of technically in the front yard also, so just so it's covered and they don't have to come back.
I think that's good.
For the thing that they have to go before the committee with the trees, depending on how they vote on that, what does that affect? Is that just, yes, they've met enough of the tree ordinance that we're happy? Or if they say no, what, is that just money in a pot, or is that change to the plans, or?
So those are all part of the things and options within the ordinance. The governing body would have the option to say, yes, we approve your modified size configuration, or no, we don't, you have to fully comply and plant all the trees on
Somewhere.
the site, or plant X number of trees on the site, and for the deficit, provide a payment in lieu thereof.
Okay.
But whatever.
In theory, it wouldn't affect.
It really doesn't affect what we're doing here. They've agreed to make some of the landscape changes and buffer planting requirements. So that will actually reduce their reforestation obligation, because those buffer trees and the other things that get added count towards some of those requirements.
Is there a time frame that they have to go to the township committee for that, with this application for the trees?
Should probably happen prior to the signing of the plans.
I mean, I think it's fair to the applicant to give them a guideline for that. Again, like you just said, I don't want them not knowing where they should be at with this, because there's an agenda that they have to get on.
So the easiest, I would say the easiest thing would be, because the last thing we want to have happen is we get resolution compliance and we sign off, and the governing body says, no, change your plans. And then you have to resubmit to us and again. So I would say that we sort of do an informal resolution compliance, that we sign off, you know, preliminarily on those plans, and then you take it to the governing body, so the number that they see is the real number based on the final design. But prior to the signing of the plans, they'll meet the comments of our reports through resolution compliance and get a determination from township committee, and then make any modifications to the plan triggered by what mayor and committee say.
Yep.
That way they don't get stuck having to.
Right, I think that's a fair way to handle it for the applicant.
Okay, makes sense.
I hope you wrote it down, Jonas.
I did. I heard.
All right, so we have the motion framed by council. May I have a motion?
You want me to repeat what I said?
No. No, I do not. But you framed the motion, and there's a member that wants to advance that.
The motion was for preliminary and final site plan approval, subject to the conditions I recited. Basically compliance with the engineer's letter, the planner's letter, installation of sidewalks, waivers, submission waivers as recommended by the engineer, and homeowner's document review and approval by township with regard to tree removal.
I'll make a
Say-
motion.
You say subdivision or site plan?
We have a second?
Second.
Roll call?
Mrs. Torti?
Yes.
Mr. C. Murphy?
Yes.
Mr. R. Murphy?
Yes.
Mrs. Levin?
Yes.
Mr. Novarita?
Yes.
Ms. Casco?
Yes.
Mr. McKay?
Yes.
And Mr. McKay?
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Want to thank the Environmental Committee for their input on that last application. All right, we're down to meeting minutes from the last meeting, May 7th. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes as written, or any comments on the minutes? Motion to approve the minutes as written. Second?
Second.
Roll call?
Mr. McKay?
Yes.
Mrs. Levin?
Yes.
Mrs. Torti?
Yes.
Mr. Novarita?
Yes.
Mr. C. Murphy?
Yes.
Ms. Casco?
Yes.
And Mr. McKay?
Yes. And then we have a couple of resolutions. First is 25-21. That's JDEB Marne Highway LLC, granting a continuance. Any comments on the form of the motion? Otherwise, a motion to approve is drafted, it would be in order.
I'm just curious if they've submitted the plans,
For who? JDEB, yes.
because it has on here deadline of July 1st.
Yes, they
Okay,
did.
okay.
Right, you guys got them?
I got the plans. You got them?
Probably.
I'll make a motion to approve the
I'll
resolution.
ask Henry tomorrow.
Second?
It's nice to have
Second on the motion?
I'm sorry, who seconded?
I made the motion.
She made the motion.
Yes.
Second.
Now you have a second. Roll call?
Ms. Casco?
Yes.
Mrs. Levin?
Yes.
Mrs. Torti?
Yes.
Mr. Novarita?
Yes.
Mr. R. Murphy?
Yes.
Mr. C. Murphy?
Yes.
And Mr. McKay?
Yes.
Yes. Next, we have a resolution, or item B under resolutions. That's Resolution 2025-22, the Hainesport Family Apartments LLC. Can I have a motion to approve that resolution as drafted?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call?
Mrs. Torti?
Yes.
Mr. Novarita?
Yes.
Ms. Levin?
Yes.
Mr. R. Murphy?
Yes.
Mr. C. Murphy?
Yes.
Ms. Casco?
Yes.
And Mr. McKay?
Yes. The next resolution we have is 2025-23, the Royal Plaza Group approval. Motion to approve is drafted, please.
So moved.
Okay. Second?
Second.
Roll call?
Mr. C. Murphy?
Yes.
Mrs. Levin?
Yes.
Mrs. Torti?
Yes.
Mr. Novarita?
Yes.
Mr. R. Murphy?
Yes.
Ms. Casco?
Yes.
And Mr. McKay?
Yes. We have a series of correspondence, all listed on the agenda, A through D. Is there any board member that wishes to address any particular one? If not, then a motion to receive and file the correspondence would be in order. Motion to receive and file? Someone?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? None. All right. Professional comments? We've got a lot of professional comments already.
Commenting now.
But helpful. Well, the explanation of the inner workings of this board and the committee on the tree ordinance is very helpful. I hope.
We're dealing with it in a few towns, we're trying to sort it out.
Any general board comments?
I have one. Scott, do we have a circulation plan as part of our master plan? Would it behoove us as a board to review that in terms of these applications and see how sidewalks, future sidewalks, connectivity correspond to the circulation plan that we've adopted?
Yeah, we can brush that off. And I do agree, the comments we talked about, we're really trying to revitalize. We have more density coming into those areas just off of Route 38. So we know that that's going to create more pedestrian light on Route 38. They're likely, to Mr. Nobrier's point, there will be very rural farm roads where we just don't get pedestrians. But for the major commercial core and corridors, it is always safer to have sidewalks.
Well, especially as you guys talked, that right next to it's gonna be that affordable housing, all of a sudden now you're gonna have more stuff coming. Now, from that bank, the old bank, to that Laurel Ridge, there's not a sidewalk.
Correct.
So it'll end right there, and you hope that whatever comes in that area puts a sidewalk.
Or at some point, if DOT does any intersection improvements, we were just successful a couple years ago in Wall Township in Monmouth County, where developments had come in and the town had gotten several connections, and the town petitioned the state and said, we need some additional crosswalk and signage and striping and some sidewalk in a strategic area. And the state actually came in and installed it because there was sort of a missing link there. They're not in the business of providing sidewalks for us, but if there is a gap in a location, and especially if they have a project going on, sometimes they will sometimes do the right thing.
Scott, do you happen to recall who was responsible for the sidewalks that run from, is it a coffee shop, whatever, Starbucks, all the way down to, now to the new jug handle in front of the warehouses and in front of Nissan and others?
Developers.
So Black Creek was required to install them as part of their NJDOT approval. Most municipalities hold the position that along the landscaping and the sidewalk that is in the right of way immediately in front of a property is the responsibility of the property owner to maintain that. So much like at your own homes, if there's a little 2-foot strip between the sidewalk and the curb, the homeowner mows that, even though it's in the municipal right of way. It is the subject of considerable case law and considerable debate, because some people don't want to be responsible for the street trees, or for the sidewalks, or for any of those improvements.
It's the one area you'd like to see a sidewalk from Fostertown Road to Hainesport Mount Laurel Road, whatever's gonna go in there. I mean,
Well,
those are areas.
They are.
that's-
I
You
know,
mean in
but
front
I
of
mean,
Eric's property
Yeah,
there?
they should, because
They are,
that's,
yeah.
and if that happens, then it should just keep going.
Mhm.
Because it does look good by by Starbucks going towards that new, it looks nice. I mean, it's dressed up.
And that's not the rural part of our community.
Right.
That is our Route 38 frontage, and to have that be a clean, pedestrian-friendly, it actually helps economic development. Being able to say to your 13-year-old, yeah, you can ride your bike up to whatever, or so-and-so, because there's a certain degree of comfort that they can manage that through crosswalks and sidewalks, as opposed to riding along the edge of the shoulder.
Or cutting through people's properties, which is what my son does in Tabernacle. So he stays safe, because we don't have sidewalks. But we effectuated that on Marne Highway. I mean, with the warehouse on the corner of the bypass and Marne, we mandated that they put a sidewalk in. We also did with Christian Faith Assembly, correct? And Franklin Estates has, I believe St. Paul's Church has a sidewalk in front of it. and Franklin Estates has sidewalk, and that provides connectivity all the way to here, the municipal park. And, there is opportunities to continue that, you're right, on Fostertown Road to Hainesport Mountain Hall Road.
As long as we can get rid of the graffiti on the old Volkswagen dealership. Yeah.
I'd like to ask, Paula, can you just bring me up to speed on that 6% affordable housing for this project? Like,
Sure.
I don't know anything about what you just said. Are we, as a township and the taxpayers of this town, we're the ones paying what is it?
No.
What did you say?
No, so the developer, because they're installing new homes in a different zone, it's an increased density for homes.
Yeah.
So we have an ordinance that mandates that any new development that provides market rate housing, and there's an increase in density, that they have to pay 6%. Typically, it's 1.5% for residential, new residential, but because there's a change in density, this was general office or professional office, and now it's
Yep.
R1, that is a change in density. There were no homes permitted there, so it's an increased density of homes.
And you understand. And where does the money go? Question is, where does
The money goes to the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, which is what the municipality utilizes per the state statute and mandates to, for affordable housing projects in Hainesport Township.
And he's paying that.
He pays it. Just as any commercial or business new development, they pay 2.5%. Any new additions on properties, they pay 1.5%. So any new development, residential is typically 1.5%, commercial it's 2.5%. But in this situation, because it's change of density, we have an ordinance that mandates that they pay 6%. And it's equalized value is what that number's based on.
I may correct you on that.
Sure.
Is that on residential additions, it doesn't, if there's an existing house, an addition doesn't have to pay that.
Okay.
But on a commercial one, though, if say they have a warehouse, now they want to put another addition to that.
That does.
That
Okay.
applies to that, correct? But
Got it.
residential, an existing home already that wants to do an addition, mother-in-law suite, whatever the case may be, they're not required, it's only a new single family.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Does that answer?
Yep.
Any other board comments? Or we can close up tonight, because I don't think there'll be any public comments. But I will ask, is there anyone in the public seating that wishes to make a comment or have a question of the board? If so, raise your hand. Seeing no hands, I'll close public comment, and can we have a motion to adjourn? Second? Second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? No. We're adjourned. Thank you.